Imagine buying a brand new home, seeing solar panels already installed on the roof, then, just before you complete the purchase, the developer tells you that you won't be able to sell any of your electricity back to the grid. Well, that's exactly what happened to one homeowner on Reddit. Welcome to iHeat Answers, where we take real questions from real homeowners, break down the facts, bust the myths, and explain everything in plain English without the jargon. So if you enjoy honest advice, practical tips, and expert insight into everything from solar panels and home batteries to air conditioning and heat pumps, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single episode. Let's start with the original question. Hello folks, just purchasing a new build with solar panels on the roof and was informed that National Grid wouldn't be accepting selling power back to the grid from the whole estate. Is this a common thing? I'd never heard of it before, so I was a bit caught off when they said it, but wanted to know if it's normal. It's, quite a fair question in my opinion. If I was buying a house and found that out, I'd be pretty spooked. Now, if you're reading this and you're thinking, God, I want to buy a new build house, we've actually got 5 questions you should ask before you go and buy one. So stick around to the end of the video to find out exactly what they are. Our first comment says, unless the developer informed you before you started the legal buying process, you may have a good case for misspelling compensation. Again, I think the irony here is he meant to say mis-selling, and you'd be due compensation, but we'll go with it. One of the biggest mistakes buyers make is assuming that because they have solar panels installed, everything is automatically set up. In reality, there are several pieces of paperwork that prove the system has been installed correctly and registered with the local network operator. One person then goes on to comment, it's probably for paperwork reasons. When I moved to a new estate, they could set me up with smart metering, but it was all based on provisional data as it takes months to years to update the database fully. To be fair, this does happen, particularly on brand new housing developments. When a new estate is built, there are a number of industry databases that need updating. Your address, your electricity meter, your NPAN, and any export registration all has to be processed by different organisations. That doesn't always happen overnight. In some cases, homeowners have perfectly working solar systems, but they can't sign up for an export tariff straight away, because the paperwork hasn't filtered through all of the relevant systems just yet. However, and this is the important distinction, we need to be careful not to confuse an administrative delay with a technical export restriction. They're two completely different scenarios. If it's just a paperwork issue, it's usually resolved once the registrations are complete and you can then apply for an export tariff with your energy supplier. Someone then goes on to say, I also bet it's the developer not knowing anything or wanting to do extra work or help their clients. You should be able to get paid for your solar export regardless. The developer would have needed to have a G98, which is a notification to the local grid or DNO, to be allowed to connect the inverter to the grid in the first place. And then to be fair, he does give some good advice. Ask your solicitor to demand MCS and G98 forms from the developer. Don't let them squirm out of it. This does actually hold some weight and he is actually quite correct here. The MCS certificate confirms installation meets recognised standards. The G98 or G99 paperwork records how the inverter has been connected to the electricity network. Then, if you're planning to be paid for exported electricity, you'll normally need an export MPAN. Without those, things can become much more complicated. If the estate has been connected under an export limited agreement with the DNO, no amount of paperwork will remove that restriction. You'll need to understand exactly what the connection agreement allows. That's why asking for the MCS certificate and the G98 paperwork is so important. Those documents help establish whether you're just waiting for the admin to catch up, or if there is a genuine export limitation on the property as a whole. The next comment says, it's not usual for some new build if the developer has agreed what is really an undersized transformer to be provisioned with the DNO or iDNO. Bit of a mouthful. The export restriction will be a consequence of the local distribution network having no capacity to absorb microgeneration export. To be honest, it's a bit rubbish and you may want to consider if the property is right for you. The developer is likely to have economized in other areas too. He is ultimately saying, if this isn't good enough for you, if you don't get the restrictions you want, you may want to buy somewhere else, which is something we have heard here at iHeat before. People have been limited and they've gone, I no longer want to live there, which is crazy to think about. So this is suggesting that the estate may have an undersized transformer and that the local electricity network simply can't accept any more exported power. This is actually one of the most likely explanations. Imagine every house on the estate producing excess solar electricity at exactly the same time on a sunny afternoon. All of that power has to travel through the same local transformer. If it wasn't designed for that level of export, the distribution network operator, or DNO, may restrict exports until the network is upgraded. One thing worth pointing out is that the original post mentions national grid. In practice, homeowners usually deal with their local distribution network operator rather than national grid directly. It's a small detail, but it's a very important distinction. It then goes on to say, the developer is Spitfire Homes, so I don't think they particularly cheap out on this sort of thing. They phrased it as the grid won't be able to take it. She may well be right. It comes down to the connection agreement between them and the DNO or iDNO. They can request a connection with no export, which is a different cost point to sizing conventionally. So what does this mean? Well, when a developer builds a new housing estate, they can't just connect hundreds of homes to the electricity network and hope for the best. Before construction starts, they have to agree a connection with either the local distribution network or, in some cases, an independent distribution network. As part of that process, the network operator looks at how much electricity the estate is likely to import from the grid, and increasingly, how much it could export back. If the existing network doesn't have enough capacity to cope with lots of homes exporting solar energy at the same time, the developer has a few options. Option 1, they can pay for upgrades to the local network. Things like a larger transformer, upgraded cables, or other reinforcement works. The downside? That can be very expensive. Option 2, they can accept an export limited connection. In simple terms, they agree that the homes won't export electricity, or they'll only be allowed to export a very small amount. Because that puts a lot less strain on the local network, it's often a much cheaper connection to the build. Now that's what the Reddit commenter is referring to when they say it's a different cost point. They're suggesting the developer may have chosen the cheaper connection agreement rather than paying for network upgrades. That doesn't necessarily mean the developer has cut corners or tried to save costs in some places. Sometimes there simply isn't enough capacity available locally, even if they're willing to pay for it. Network upgrades can take months or even years to complete. So in this particular case, the developer telling the buyer the grid won't be able to take it is actually a reasonable explanation. It sounds like the estate may have been connected under an export restricted agreement. If that's the case, the important question isn't just can I export, it's how much am I allowed to export, and is that restriction permanent or could it change in the future? Expert tip. If you were buying this property, I'd ask the developer for a copy of the DNO connection agreement or confirmation of any export limitations. That will tell you exactly what restrictions apply, rather than relying on hearsay from the sales office. The conversation then shifts into something more interesting. Why do new build homes come with such small solar systems? This user has said, if it's one of those typical new builds with 2 panels covering 0.0001% of the roof, that's an absolutely insane policy, on top of the whole insanity of not filling up the roof completely with cheap panels. I think this commenter is being slightly over the top with their 0.0001%, but I do see the frustration where these new builds do have barely any panels on. Many developers install only the minimum system needed to satisfy regulations or planning requirements. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the best design for the homeowner. If you're planning to stay in a property for years, it may be worth exploring whether the system can be expanded in the future. Although, as this comment suggests, the rules are changing. Next year, they'll have to cover 40% of the floor area in panels, so most of the south-facing roof. Then he's added a link in here to the UK building compliance. Solar systems have got cheaper faster than the rules could react. This comment was actually quite forward-looking. New regulations mean that most new homes will need much larger solar installations than we've been used to seeing. The benchmark is based on covering the equivalent of around 40% of the home's ground floor area with solar PV, which is why you'll often hear people say most of the south-facing roof will be used. The original poster also mentions being quoted around £1,000 to upgrade to a hybrid inverter so they can add a battery later. Without knowing what it is and paying an arbitrary £1,000 to upgrade, I'm not sure I'd take that. You've got to know what it is that's going in. Very likely the cheapest thing they can buy. And this I do agree with, and it does hold some weight. Most developers, when they think about solar, they just throw in a single string inverter to a new build. They don't think about the future, adding a hybrid inverter or adding batteries down the line. Now, if the developer is offering a hybrid inverter upgrade for around £1,000, that could actually be reasonable, but only if you know exactly what you're getting. We'd want to know the manufacturer, the model number, the warranty, and which batteries it's compatible with before making that decision. Even on our own channel, we've seen installs go from a Solac single string inverter, ripped it all out, and installed full-on power systems like the Tesla Powerwall 3. As you can imagine, a Tesla Powerwall 3 install costs a lot more than £1,000. So what is he offering here? We'd always advise asking for the make and model of the inverter, checking battery compatibility, and understanding exactly what the upgrade includes before spending the money. So what do we think here overall? Reddit got a lot right here. Asking for the paperwork, great advice. Suggesting local grid capacity could be the issue, also very plausible. The only thing we'd add is that there's a big difference between not being able to export electricity and not yet being able to register for export payments. If you're buying a new build home with solar, there are 5 questions we'd always recommend to ask. Number 1. Can I have the MCS certificate? Number 2. What's the make and model of the inverter? Number 3. Is there any export restriction on the property? Number 4. Is the inverter battery compatible? And finally, has the DNO approved the connection? Hopefully that's helped explain what's really going on. If you've seen a Reddit post about solar, batteries, heat pumps, or air conditioning that you'd like us to break down, leave a link in the comments below. If it's a good one, we might feature it in a future episode. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. Thanks for watching. This has been iHeat.